everybody, today I'm going to be showing you a step-by-step tutorial on how I hand built this beautiful little flower jug. So I'll take you through the whole process from preparing the clay, creating the form, building the spout, attaching the handle, and then how I create these beautiful little flowers and attach them. So I hope you enjoy it, I hope you learn something new, and I look forward to showing you. So let's get started. So I've got my 15 centimetre slump bowl made by Pots here in New Zealand, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a little flower vase with this by combining two halves and joining them together and then decorating it with some flowers. So first up I need to roll some clay. So the clay that I'm using today is Laguna's Paper Clay. It's a really nice clay to use for creating forms such as vases and large bowls. So I'm going to start by wedging my clay. I'm just using the heels of my hands. Then I'm going to bash it. Taking my little rolling pin that's from a hardware store. It's just a round piece of wood that I've cut into different lengths for my projects. Works really well for rolling out clay. So first I like to whack my clay down. And then we're going to flip it over. Flip it over again, and holding both sides together and pushing down even pressure, we're just going to start to roll that clay. Flipping, pushing. Every time you flip your clay, to keep it in a round shape, you want to flip it and turn it so that I'm going to be pushing out this way to try and keep that form. And then when I turn my clay around, I'm pushing out a different way. That way your piece of clay will continue to grow and you'll be still sticking with that round shape that we want for our slump mold. My plaster spreader, which I use to compress and smooth my clay. What I do is you have it on an angle and you just drag it across your clay and you push down at the same time. And this helps to smooth out your clay, brings to the surface any little bubbles so that you can pop them. And by doing this, I'm sure it helps with bubbles and your firing. All right, so we got our little piece here. It's approximately 1/2 centimetre thick. Just going to pull that off to the side, bring back my slump mold, and we're going to just lie that across. And what you want to do is we are just going to very gently start pushing that down into the slump. You can create these little darts. Because it's quite a small slump. It's going to go down into there. Let's make that dart. And I'm just going to cut off some of that excess clay. nice form there. And now I'm just going to be joining this by pushing down and spreading across those joins. This is the easiest way I find for shaping in my slump molds. I love working with them. They're just such a simple way of creating bowls and vases and other forms. So I'm just going to trim off the excess around the top. Just taking my little mud tools, flexible rib, and I'm just going to gently push and compress that clay inside. So we're smoothing it out, and I'm trying to keep my sides nice and even. And by doing this, you'll find that the opposite side of this little shape should have a beautiful form as well. And I'm wanting to try and keep these sides nice, even thickness. That's it. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to put this in a warm space and just let this clay set up and firm up a little bit before we can remove it from inside the slump mold. So what I'm going to do now is just show you how to make some of my flowers. So I have my little plaster bat here, which is what I want to put my flowers onto when I've created them. I highly recommend them. They help to draw the moisture out of any clay work that you're doing, and it means that your pottery will dry quite quickly and they're easy to remove. So I'm just using some flour icing cake presses, which you can push into the clay, and then so what we do is we just push that down into the clay. I'm going to cut some of these shapes out. If they come out like that, you can actually just push them out, pull them. That's my big flower. I'm taking my next size down little flowers. Going down to even smaller flowers. Started to set up a little bit and come away from the sides of the mold, so hopefully we're able to pull this out. You don't want it to harden off too much because I want to be able to add the second piece on top, so I'm hoping we flip it. There we go. So that's turned out beautiful. And it's a beautiful form. Just going to lift that off. But what I'm going to do now, I've taken that off, is we're going to make the second half. I'm going to put this out in the sun so that this can keep setting up and firming up. And then once we've got the two sides, we can start to join them together and add our flowers onto it. So to repeat the second half of my base, I'm going to be wedging my paper clay again and making that second slump mold And what we're going to do, we're going to take this little flower here. Just want to score it in the middle. In fact, you can, got my little ball of clay, and what I want to do is just push that down into a flatter form. And then you can score the bottom of it, pop a little bit of water onto there, push that down. I'm using the back of this makeup brush because it's got a nice soft end, and we're going to push that down into the middle of that flower. So now I've got my little tool here, and it has a little ball on the edge. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be poking little holes all around these little flowers. So what I'm going to do before I take this second half out, just release it from the sides walls, is I'm going to be using my cookie cutter just to cut the hole in the base, and this is going to be for the top section. So you want to make sure that you get this in the center as much as you can, and then we're just going to push down and we're going to cut through the wall of that. That's up there. Just again, if I can turn this over, it's popped out, which is great. And then we can then I'm going to bring back my bottom part of my base now, and what I'm going to do is first very gently drop that down, and that's going to create a little bit of a flatter base. So what we're going to do is just go round and give all of these edges a good score. I'm going to also score the top half. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to place the top part onto the bottom, and you want to make sure that these fit right. Start joining these together. On the inside, using my little thumb tool, and I'm going to work my way around the inside of that join. So you're supporting it with your outside hand as you're pushing out, and we're just joining that seam. I'll take my little mud tool. So you're working your way around the pot, and we're making this as smooth as we can. I don't want to see, we don't want to see our join. Okay. Just going to keep that shape. So this is just a cookie cutter that I've used to cut the center out. I'm just going to now. So I'm going to score the top of my pot. Taking my thumb tool, and you just want to be joining, once again, joining those together. Go around the inside using my damp finger, smoothing that off. So we can pop our little cookie cutter back in here just to get your shape back, and that helps to keep that nice circle on the top nice and even. So we've got a really nice shape now, and you can put this on a little banding wheel, and if you spin it around you'll see how your form is. I'll just show you. Looking at it, you'll get to see whether your shapes need a little bit of correction and if everything's looking nice and even. So this is looking pretty good. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to apply a little handle on it, then I'm going to form the spout, and then we'll start placing our flowers on. So what I want to do is put some clay through my extruder, and you can just roll this out if you don't have an extruder, and you can make your handles flat or curved or whatever sort of shape that you like. So I've got an extruder that I bought off Amazon. This works really, really well, and so I'm just going to do a round handle, pop my die into the end, screwing it on, put my clay inside the extruder, screw this on. So this is what my extruder looks like, and what we're going to do is we start pumping. It's pushing this down compressing the clay in here, and we're going to lie it down on the table, and I'm just going to push and pull out a perfectly formed little round so I'm just scoring on my pot, and then I'm going to take the end of this and scoring, applying some water on here. We're just going to stick that down. So I'm supporting it on the inside and we're pushing it down. And then I'm using my thumb. I'm just going to gently take my thumb tool. So I've just twisted that onto my pot. Just going to score it down here. Apply a little bit of water to create, it kind of creates a bit of a slip. And then I'm going to push that down and I'm going to blend that in. And that's given me quite a funky little handle. So now I want to make a little bit of a pouring spout, because I think I will make this a slightly functional jug. So what I want to do is I'm actually going to add on a little bit of extra clay onto this point here. Now I could pull it with my finger and a wet, but because I want to create quite a long pouring spout, I'm just going to add on this extra little bit of clay. Very gently with my thumb. So we've added on this extra bit of clay now. So what we should be able to do now, just flip it over. Should be able to wet my fingers and just start, I'll put that down there, and just holding it and pinching it together, but I'm running my wet thumb up and I'm starting to form a little bit of a pouring spout, and then use my fingers. We're just using a damp finger just to smooth off and shape that form. Pulling my finger down, and my finger's wet, so it is creating a nice little, and you're holding it together, pinch it together, just keep smoothing it off. This is the other side. So see the form of that spout, it's just coming really nicely round. So we're just going to check that it is even on both sides. So I just want to bring that side down a little bit. So that's looking pretty good. And that's a nice form. So I'm just going to mix up a little bit of slip using the clay and some water. And this is what I'm going to be using to attach. I'll help to attach a lot of my flowers. So I've just popped some water in and some clay, and I'm just going to blend that around until we get quite a nice, smooth, little bit of a slip. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to just take my little flower, and what we're going to do is I'm going to score it. Scoring the back of my flowers. I'm going to apply the slip to the back of the flower. My little bowl, my flower down, very gently push my flower on. Right, so another little flower here. Just pushing that down gently. So you don't want to push down so hard that you ruin the form of your pot, but because this is nice and firm, it's a really good chance to put these decorations on. Okay, so I think we're pretty much done. Thanks for watching today. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I look forward to glazing this little pot and creating another tutorial on how I glaze it. In the meantime, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Happy potting.